What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Tuya Knives Big Belly. So this is a knife from the Apex passaround group, and this as well as the variant PE2 from Crevice Blade Works. These are the two knives that I did not unbox, so I didn't film an unboxing video. So you're probably like, oh, 814 EDC has a Big Belly. Indeed, I do. This has been in for probably a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I think I mentioned in my Kivist overview / full review that I got these like the Friday I went to Pittsburgh, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to film something for a couple of days, and I didn't want to wait, so I just unboxed them. Then I never got around to filming anything about them until now. So it's been enough time for me. It's been like I said, almost 2 weeks I think since I've unboxed them, and I'm ready to do my full review on it. And this is a cool knife. It is. There's a lot of good qualities for it. I think it's well built, and it's different, but it's cool, and it has some good qualities, like I said. So jumping right into materials, the blade here is M390. Should say it somewhere on here. So yeah, it says M390 right here, and it's also numbered. So this is number 71 out of 220. If you guys are able to see that or not. Some light in there. As you can see, this is an access style lock. It is a carbon fiber integral, which is really, really cool. It's the first time I've experienced that. So this is basically a one-piece construction. You have a milled titanium pocket clip. That's not super deep carry, but it's pretty decent. You have dual thumb studs. This is a Mikhail Galovic design. I have not heard of him. I'm not familiar with many of his designs besides this one. I believe it's a hollow grind. It's a very tall blade, has a big belly, hence the name Big Belly. And it's a satin grind with different, so it's like a vertical satin on the grind, but then on the flats, it's like a horizontal satin. There is the Tuya logo. And then I think the black here is G10 on both sides. Kind of like houses the access style lock. And I don't know if they are calling this anything specific, or if it's just a access style lock, crossbar lock, something like that. But this is dead centered. It's on bearings, and there's no internal milling going on. Actually, I take that back. There's 2 small holes in there, but again, this is all carbon fiber, so you do not need much milling at all. It's very lightweight. Am I missing anything else? Bearings, got the grind. Like I said, I think it's hollow, comes down to a nice thin edge. I always have a tough time deciding if it's a hollow or not, but I think it is. It kind of looks like it from my point of view, but I think that's all for materials. So jumping right into action, the thumb flick on this. So for access style locks, you guys are all probably pretty familiar with them. They run on springs, so there's no detent ball. Hence, you don't get a super strong detent on some, like my Benchmade bug out over here. The detent is pretty much it's not there. So you kind of have to get used to that and fight through the kind of bleh to get it to fire out. But once you get used to it, it works well. But this is the spring, I think, on this is a little bit tighter, because this has a little bit more force to keep it in, so it provides for a very clean and very crisp thumb flick. Both middle finger and thumb flick, excuse me, fires right out of there. You can do the index finger flick, which isn't as easy as some other knives because the thumb stud is tucked in so close to the scale there. But the thumb flick is awesome. Slow roll is pretty decent. And then you have the middle finger flick, which is money as well. And you guys can see how, just guillotine-y it is. It's almost like it just sucks it right in. Like it just drops, and there's like a magnet that just, bloop. Oh, I messed up that time. It just like sucks it in. It's like being drawn back into its resting place. And I think this, I haven't experienced a ton of access style lock knives. I, of course, have my Benchmade. I've had an Asher Century 2.0 that was an access style lock. I've had a Griptilian before or a mini Griptilian before I had the channel. I had a Deca, which I still to this day regret buying, or excuse me, regret selling. So up until this day, the Deca was probably my favorite version of the access style lock. It seemed a little bit more refined. The spring was a little bit tighter on the Hogue than it was on my Benchmade, and it was a little bit more drop shutty. I really like that knife, and I really like the action on it. But I must say, this is, you know, pretty dang good too. It's just, I love how you just, you know, pull the lock back just a little bit too. You don't even have to pull it like the whole way down. As soon as you let pressure off of this, I mean, it just drops home. So it's very, very good. And like I said, I think this is on bearings, which adds a difference too, because some knives that have access style locks are on washers, just like my bug out is. But the action is great. Very, you know, smooth, fidget friendly, drop shut, and just no pressure at all. I mean, I barely moved that out of the way before it dropped shut. So awesome, awesome action. Next up is ergos. Ergos are good. You have a groove here, and it kind of swells back here, gets a little bit fatter. And up top, you basically just have it flat the whole way back until it gets to the butt end of the knife, and then it tapers off a lot. You don't have a choil. You can use this area kind of as like a landing choil, but you're kind of touching the edge of the blade. So I'd only suggest doing this if you're doing something very slow and being very, very precise with it. But the carbon fiber is very lightweight. And one thing I don't love is it seems kind of top heavy, because you have this big blade up here. You know, it's kind of, you know, not a decently, it's not super chunky, but there's a little bit of, I mean, there's some stock there. But of course it's so tall, and it's a big piece of metal. But when you counteract that with a slab of carbon fiber, which is very, very light, and even with the milled paw clip and everything going on, it seems kind of like top heavy. And sometimes when I'm like flipping it around and, you know, moving with it and stuff like that, I can kind of feel that like in just different ways that it moves. It's hard to describe over camera how it feels, but that's just something that I've kind of picked up on, and I've kind of, you know, formed an opinion on, I guess. And that's not to say that it's like as soon as you open the knife, it's gonna like fall forward because it's so heavy. It's just, there's a little bit of a slight difference. The center of the knife, or center of the gravity, I think would be a little bit farther up on this knife than, as I almost drop it on some other knives. But it's definitely, you know, if you were to buy this and get used to it and stuff like that, you probably wouldn't even notice it at all. But back to ergos, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at, is it's very comfortable. You have a indent here, an indent here, and an indent here. It feels very good. It fills up your hand. You don't have any jimping on the back here, but you do have a thumb ramp, which is really cool. You know, kind of Spyderco-esque. And I like that it didn't do any jimping on this knife, because you don't need it, because whenever you have thumb ramps like that, you get a very good grip. You know, it kind of just locks it into your hand, and I really like that about it. And again, you can use this choil if you're going to be doing something really precise, and you're going to be, you know, careful with what you're doing, and mindful of not slicing your finger on the blade. So ergos are great. The paw clip, I forgot to talk about that real quick. It's very not very proud of the knife. It kind of just sits nice and flush, which, you know, makes for a great ergonomic experience, because sometimes when you have deep carry clips that sit very high off of the knife, you can definitely feel that in your palm of your hand. But in this, I mean, you really have to be, like, I'm squeezing the knife really hard, and I can just start to feel it there. So they did a good job with that. One thing, speaking of the paw clip, you know, staying on the same subject here, but from an aesthetic standpoint, I wish they would have made the paw clip a little bit shorter, because something just bugs me with my OCD about how close the clip is with the like black G10 kind of inset there. I wish they just would have backed it up a little bit. That's bugged me from like the time, you know, from the very beginning of when I opened this knife. And that's just me. I don't know if other people feel the same way, but I think it looks a little weird in my opinion. So, but that doesn't have anything to do with ergos. Ergos are fantastic. Next up is carry, and this also carries very, very well, because you have, of course, a full slab of, you know, carbon fiber. It's an integral, so it's all one piece. It's very, very lightweight, rides in the pocket very well. You know, overall, it's not a huge knife. I think the blade length on here is just over 3 inches, a little over 3 inches, somewhere around there. So it's very lightweight. It's very compact, sits in the pocket super well, and you have nothing over here but carbon fiber to touch your hands on, and it's nice and soft to the touch, and there's no sharp edges. You do have, I guess, back here some kind of a rough edge if you happen to run your hand over it, but that shouldn't really matter because whenever you go into your pocket, you're going to be kind of coming on an angle or coming straight down, so you're not going to be, you know, catching on anything. You're not going to be, you know, ripping your hands if you're having to get down below it for a chapstick, change, so on and so forth, stuff like that. Yeah, it carries well. Like I said, it's not a deep carry clip, but it carries somewhere in that range, so it's definitely, you know, better than some other milled clips that have, you know, this much of the knife sticking up out of your pocket, so I can't really knock it for that. Yeah, but ergos, carry, action, all that's good, which leads me to my final category of price point and what I recommend this knife. So price point on this, I think, is like $280. I will leave a link to Tuya's website down below. You know, you're getting great materials because you're getting M390, a nice hollow grind, a very usable blade with a big belly. Again, hence the name Big Belly. And the different thing here is you're getting a carbon fiber integral, which is not something that you see, you know, much nowadays, in my opinion. I think this is the only one that I know of that has made a carbon fiber integral. I could be completely wrong, but this is the only one that I'm aware of. You know, you're getting a very smooth access style lock. There is a little bit of blade play, so maybe if you were to tighten it down a little bit, the drop would be affected. I don't know. I just left it how it is. I didn't want to mess with it or anything like that. But there's no lock rock. There's just a little bit of blade play. So I think, you know, in my opinion, $280 is kind of a decent amount to pay for this knife. I personally would be more comfortable spending around $200 for it. Because, you know, at the $280 price point, you can get a lot of, you know, different things. You can get full tie knives that have different, you know, accents and whatnot on it. And I just think $280 might be a little bit too high. But in saying that, I think I saw where he came out with a budget version of the same design, but in, I think, red G10, and I think it was 154 cm for like $80. That is a price I would pay for this knife. You know, better materials, or sorry, lesser materials, excuse me. But, you know, I think I would take the lesser materials and spend $200 less on a, you know, frankly, a great design with a great, you know, cutting edge, cutting geometry, everything like that. Just a really good EDC knife. And just, you know, accept the G10 and the 154 cm because those wouldn't bother me at that price point. So, but I would recommend this knife if you are interested in, you know, something that's not a Benchmade, you know, that has an access style lock, or if you're just, you know, this is kind of a, there aren't many knives like this out there with the blade shape. It reminds me of a bigger, like, Mini Freak or a Freak Benchmade. Kind of has the same blade shape going on, but it's kind of like its own thing because it has a speciality, excuse me, of having a carbon fiber integral handle, which is, again, something you don't see every day. So that's kind of a big, I think, draw to this knife, a big selling point for this knife. And, you know, I get that. So I wish the price was a little bit lower. I think they could definitely get a, you know, even $250 or below would be, I think, a better price than $280. But again, I will leave a link to the Tuya website directly to this knife if you're interested. I think $280 is the price. I haven't checked in a while, so I could be kind of off base there, but I think that's the ballpark that it runs. So to sum it up, I think this specific knife is a little bit overpriced in my opinion. It's still a fantastic knife. You're getting awesome materials. You're getting great action. You know, very fidget friendly. It's very, you know, very usable knife. Very comfortable in hand. I think $280 is a little bit, you know, overpriced, but be on the lookout for that budget model. I think it's right around $80, and you're getting, from what I can remember, I think I saw it in red G10 with the same black sort of housings here, and 154 cm for like $80-ish. So, but if you find it on Instagram or go to his website, you can find more on that there. But great knife, just not for me. There's other things that I think I would rather spend my money on. But I can recommend it. I really don't have anything bad to say about it, just besides it being maybe a little bit too expensive. So I want to thank the Apex group for letting me check this out. David over at Blade Banner, the kind of the head of the Apex group. Really appreciate it. And I was honestly excited whenever I saw this pop up in the group, because I know Kevin had one in and he had some pretty good things to say about it. And it definitely didn't disappoint. I think it's just a smidge overpriced, but for the materials, the action, fit and finish, it's all great. So I definitely was glad to check it out, and I can definitely suggest it to anybody looking for a different styling of a knife with a access style lock, because this is definitely unique in my opinion, and definitely very, very cool. So as much as I am not going to buy it, I can definitely think and tell people that this is a good knife. So guys, this was my full review on the Tuya Knives Big Belly. Again, shout out to the Apex Passaround group for letting me check this out, and I will be getting this sent out to the next person probably tomorrow after work. So leave a comment down below, guys. Have you had any experience with the Big Belly or even Tuya as a company, in general? This is the first offering from Tuya, but they have some other interesting can't talk today. Interesting things that I maybe would want to check out in the future. But yeah, just leave a comment, your thoughts on the knife. I'm sure some of you out there probably agree with me that this might be a little bit overpriced, but I'm sure some of you probably think that this is a very standard price for it, and it's very adequate for the materials you're getting. And I'm not going to argue with it on that, because again, you're getting awesome materials and stuff like that. So just leave a comment down below, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. But that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble and rave and rant and stumble over my words and the very usual 814 EDC video. So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I love each and every... See? Stumbling over my words. I love each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.